Hello, Calaveras County, and welcome to another edition of Mondo Calaveras. I'm your host, Mike Taylor. Now, we are coming into the summertime, and if there's one thing we get a lot of in the mother lode in the summer, it's sunshine, and my guest can help us kind of put that to work for us. Please welcome Larry Stroh with Advanced Solar Energy.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here, Larry. Now, solar energy, I mean, the sun is presumably going to be up there forever, at least as far as you and I are concerned. How long have we been working to kind of harness that energy?
For the last 25 years, really, seriously. California has an average of almost 300 days of sun a year. So in the state of California, solar is the way to go.
Okay.
Absolutely. Most of your systems will zero out, pay for themselves in somewhere 4.5 to 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Most of the equipment has a linear warranty, which means in 25 years they have to produce a certain amount of energy that they were
kind of telling us they were going to
do for the 25 years. Yeah.
I see.
So, and a lot of your systems can last 30 plus years.
Oh, okay.
With some of the with rate increases from PG&E, which is approximately 8% a year. So in 8-9 years, your power bill is going to double for the same amount of usage. So you're actually putting your payment. You make your payment for 5 years, and then for the next 25 years, you put it back in your pocket.
And you put all that money in your pocket. Let's kind of back up to the beginning of the industry, if we could, for a little bit, Larry, because I remember initially people had the solar hot water systems on the roofs of their houses,
right.
and you know, those were sort of that one spot that kind of looked like a hot water heater up on the roof, and we heard about, at the time they were called photovoltaic cells, and I don't know if that's what they're still called. We'll cover that, I'm sure, but when people started using those, you saw what looked like acres and acres for one house. And I understand that things have gotten a lot more efficient now. Tell us a little bit about kind of how the industry got going and what we're doing today that's different.
Well, you got basically two types of panels. You have a monocrystalline panel and a polycrystalline panel.
Okay.
Excuse me. A polycrystalline panel has multiple crystal silica cells. And a monocrystalline has a single crystal cell, which actually it has more room in the molecule for the electricity to flow in.
Oh, I see.
So it's more efficient. And your mono panels have a black color.
Oh, okay.
And the polycrystalline panels have a blue tint to them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so you can tell them apart pretty easily. The cost-wise are approximately the same kind of money.
Oh, really? Okay.
You know, of course, if you want to put your money in the more efficient stuff, and as they grow, they find little things that, you know, they'll change the diodes in them and that type of thing to where, because a shaded panel becomes a resistor. Oh. So if you have you have microinverter systems and you have string inverter systems. Your string inverter systems take like a chain of panels. So if you shade a third of those panels from trees or whatever, that whole circuit's down.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Now, if you use microinverters, which we use the most of, you can shade 2 or 3 panels. They just stop producing themselves, and the rest of them are going normal.
So the rest of the system doesn't necessarily produce more power to make up for that missing panel, but that missing panel doesn't affect what those other panels are creating.
Right.
Okay.
So as the technology moves forward, they find better ways to convert the DC to AC power, which is, you know, into an electronics wizard type thing, you know.
Yeah.
We pretty much do installs, diagnostics to find problems with systems.
Okay.
And then we size systems for different kinds of houses and for what their needs are.
Is most of the work you do commercial or residential?
It's approximately, I'd say 60 to 70% residential.
Oh, really? Okay.
But we do a lot of commercial stuff too.
Well, it seems that especially, you know, whenever a new parking garage goes up somewhere in the city, they're taking advantage of that and throwing a lot of solar panels almost as shade structures in those parking lots.
Yeah, that shades keeps your people cooler.
Sure.
And then you produce power at the same time.
Same time. How much does it take now, again, going back to my, you know, we used to see lots and lots of panels just to power one house, and it seems like now you can almost get away with a roof or so to power a house. Is that about what we're getting to?
That's true. Most houses need about like 24 panels.
Okay.
Which would put you somewhere close to about 5,000 watts.
Okay.
That will cover about $150 electric bill.
I see. Is that kind of where you guys start when you go to examine a property? You sort of look at what the family is using power-wise?
Yeah, exactly. What we'll do is we'll take 12 months of their kW usage from PG&E.
I see.
And then there's formulas where you add that all together and then you divide it back down to the day. And then you come up with a number of what they actually need.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you can take the same size house here and then go to Angels and they might use twice as much power.
Yeah.
Because of of their lifestyle or whatever it is.
Well, and that could also have a lot to do with, is the house on the north side of the slope or the south side of the slope and all of that, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Now and actually speaking north and south, then I would imagine you guys have to be pretty careful which way the panels are facing, correct?
Oh, yeah.
And what do you do to sort of track that and make that fit to a property that might not be facing the correct direction?
Well, if you can always tilt the panels.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes, if let's say you have a building that's that the ridge is north and south, which we're actually doing one of them right now.
Oh.
So what we did was, if that was south, we actually rolled the panels up at an angle like that and put the rows like that.
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, of course, your sun's on the equator, you know, so we're like a 32nd parallel, or latitude, I mean. So your degree angle is, you want it to be somewhere around 25-ish, which gives you a little more power in the summertime. I
see.
Because the sun's so much
straight up.
Oh, yeah, like that.
Okay.
Some houses, because of the, you know, the tree stuff, you know, it just doesn't pay to try to do anything with it. In them kind of cases, what we'll usually do is put a ground mount in.
Okay.
And then we can turn and adjust it accordingly, and then they can take trees out over here to where it doesn't affect the niceness of the house.
How it is at the yard at the house and that kind of thing. I would imagine that it makes it a little easier for you up here where you might have some acreage with the house, where you can maybe move those panels around a little bit. And I'm, you know, not trying to trap you into numbers necessarily, even though I'm going to ask a number question. Okay. But what does it cost, say, for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, you know, mom, dad, and 2 kids? Like you said, maybe it's that $150, $200 in the summertime electric bill.
I would say you're probably looking at, you know, depending on the usage again.
Sure.
I would say like an approximate like 25,000.
Okay. And are there programs now? I know we hear most often around here because of the Sacramento TV stations, we see a lot of commercials for SMUD offering rebates for people who are going solar. Does PG&E do that too?
No.
They're not interested in rewarding us for taking us off their line.
Well, actually, that's not altogether true.
Okay.
PG&E doesn't have an issue that direction with solar because it's a high usage part of the day. When your system is putting out the most power. If you're only using half of that, it goes back through the meter and it goes to your neighbor.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you've softened the infrastructure for PG&E.
Oh, okay.
They don't get these big whams. Like you remember what they do,
the brownouts and the rolling
power outages and stuff. We at that time we had to buy power from Nevada. So they can store enough, and with the solar during the day and then feed back in at night, that it softens all of it makes their job easier.
Makes their job easier
because every day they're putting people in more and more houses.
Sure.
Everywhere. They're building them like crazy. So and now PG&E's got to keep increasing the size of all their equipment to be able to feed a given area that way.
How do the loans for that $25,000 work? Did they almost act like second mortgages, or how do you put that part together, the financing for folks?
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have a mortgage on your house, of course it would be a second. Now, there is some programs, and there's some finance companies that are, PACE is one of them, that specialize in like solar and wind and that kind of, the green energy things.
Sure.
And there's a program called the HERO program.
Okay.
And what that has to do with, I think Calaveras is in, Amador, Tuolumne, El Dorado. And what that does is the county pays for your solar, and you pay it back in your property taxes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I mean, because it's benefiting the people, the country, everything.
Yeah.
You're saving, saving raw fuels and that kind of thing. So.
Sure. What's maybe the most complicated system you've had to put together?
We probably the biggest one we had to do, we did a Chevron station down in Soulsbyville. And we put 87 panels on the fuel canopy.
Oh, wow.
40 panels on the main building, and then 60 panels on their storage building.
My gosh.
Of course, it's a 24-hour station with a full restaurant in it and all that.
Yeah, so that's a lot of lights using a lot of power.
Oh, yeah, and
so
fridges and freezers.
Yeah, definitely. And so for a project that size, for that particular station, were you able to zero out their PG&E bill?
Not completely.
Okay.
Not completely. They are actually going to build another structure to the south, so we're going to actually add more panels in to final the thing out.
Okay.
It's been that type of the deal, like you do one section and then you get it cleared off, then you permit the next, because you're up to getting close to 100,000 watts. I mean, that's then you get it. PG&E gets involved. The engineering has to be, meet with their stuff.
Right.
So.
And I think this is a good spot to kind of stop and talk about how the system actually works, because you mentioned, the atoms kind of jiggling around and the electricity being in there, but how does that electricity get from the panel to that box in the house? Because I know you have to almost completely change what's called the PG&E drop and how all of that comes in. So what do you guys do for that?
Well, your panels are rated in a certain wattage. Most of the panels that are on the market and readily available right now is around the 300 watt range.
Okay.
And your panels made out of, most of your panels are 60 cell panels or 72, and each one of the cells will produce a certain amount of voltage in DC, like a little battery. When the sun hits it. So what it does is it tears it up until it's like 39 volts DC or whatever, or 72 could be 50 something. So now you have a DC flow of power. DC flow power, if you're running a string system, you go one panel to the next, plus, minus, and you get your voltage up to about somewhere close to 500 to 600 volts.
I see.
Now that goes into an inverter, which converts the DC into an an AC sine wave.
Okay.
And what your inverters are doing, they're phase inverters. So what they actually do is they read the sine wave of what PG&E comes in. They match that wave, and then they connect, so it doesn't cause a conflict.
Oh, wow.
And then, like I said, if you're using less power than you're producing, it just flows back into their system even. It doesn't cause a big surge or waves or any of that kind of stuff. And your systems also have a thing called rapid shutdown.
Okay.
So if the power goes down, your inverter shut down immediately.
Okay.
So that way you're not back powering PG&E's line.
Yeah, trying to fill that down system up.
Well, or get somebody hurt that's trying to fix it.
Yeah,
because it's hot over here and it's disconnected, and now it's hot over here too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
But so it's pretty simple. It's like you're taking little bitty cells and batteries, and you add them up together enough that you can go into an inverter, and you can you invert the DC power to AC, and then match the sine wave into what PG needs.
And then you're good to go. And then all through the course of the day and night, obviously, that system is pulling in whatever power the panels are sending to it.
Exactly.
And then kind of doing the math on the fly, it sounds like. And do I need to send more power to the house, or do I put it back into PG&E? Is that kind of what?
Well, exactly. Well, electricity, it'll go where it's needed, the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll go right into the house as long as you're using up all of it or whatever. And once the bucket gets full, theoretically, it overflows.
Then it goes to PG&E.
So it goes to PG&E.
I see.
And then you have a thing called net metering. PG&E, which you apply for at the beginning. What that allows your meter to go read in both directions.
Oh, I see.
So if at your given meter number, at the end of the day, it might be 1,000 or 2,000 less than what you start in the morning. So at night, it comes back to the number, it gives you power back.
Yeah.
So PG&E kind of holds on to it for you, which actually don't hold on to it. It goes to somebody else's house.
Yeah.
And they make up the difference to whatever they need to put into the system.
Okay.
So
it's a pretty complicated system, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And where does that component of the equipment, does it go like with your electrical box? Does it like go right adjacent to it, or does it go in the garage, or where do you put that part of the system, the inverter and all that?
The inverters, usually you can mount them in the garage, but usually people want them outside the garage.
I see.
I mean, like usually on the shaded side of the building. The micro inverters are actually they're about 8 inches by 6.5.
Oh wow! Okay.
And now it actually plugs into a trunk cable, each one, and then they're set underneath the panels.
Oh,
and
I see.
Each panel plugs right into its own inverter.
Okay.
The advantage to having that type of system is you can monitor it on a computer or anything.
Oh, I see.
You can actually pull it up on a thing that's called Enlighten, and you can actually see your array of the way it looks on the roof.
Wow.
And then it'll tell you the wattage output right now of every single one on there. And now if you're looking through it, if you see one that's black or an odd color, it's not producing.
It's not pulling its weight, so to speak.
Right.
Huh?
So and in that kind of a case, because we deal with the system every day, now as an installer and a diagnostic tech, if we open that app up on our phone, if we have any systems with a problem, they come right up on our front page.
Oh, wow. I see.
So we know that they have a problem a long time before the customer.
The Joneses over in Jackson have a problem.
We just schedule them in, go take care of that. And
okay.
We'll call them and say, hey, we got some kind of issue we need to look at.
Really? And so you guys are actually on the forefront there. It's not the homeowner calling you, huh?
No.
Oh, wow.
Not most of the time it's not.
Unless
they have a communication problem.
Yeah.
With the internet or something. They move their modem or change the passwords or something like that.
Yeah. You mentioned the power going out, and I'm thinking a hot summer day, if your panels are working and PG&E's power goes out, does your house still have power?
In some types of systems, you do.
Okay.
Now, a regular grid-tied system, no.
Okay.
Now, they do have a system where you have panels on the roof and you have batteries.
Yeah.
And that's like a backup system.
Oh, I see.
So the panels will actually charge the batteries up. And then when the batteries are full, it'll backfeed PG&E and reverse your meter.
Okay. Now, would a system like that also be something that you would install, say, somewhere out in the boonies where somebody is off the grid already? They're out of PG&E's range. I know there aren't that many properties around like that anymore.
We have probably 25.
Okay.
Somewhere close, 20 to 25 systems that we maintain that are completely off-grid.
Completely on their own.
Yeah.
I'll be darned. And does that work out pretty good, or do they kind of run out of power at 5 o'clock in the morning on the really dark winter days?
Sometimes. Hopefully not. I mean, these type of systems, when they're off-grid, the system monitors the battery levels all the time, and most of those systems have a generator.
Oh,
so
I see.
If you get into a multiple rainy week or something like that, when your battery level gets to a certain point, it automatically starts a generator and starts charging it.
I see.
Again,
yeah. Okay. And speaking of a rainy week, what happens on a cloudy day? Does the system still generate power even though it's cloudy?
Yeah, but you're not getting
getting as much.
No, you can get when it's foggy or something, and you can still see an output. It could be 20%, 30%. It depends on how much of a overcast and how dense it is. But as soon as it gets a good portion of light, it will start to work.
I'll be darned. Okay. So you don't have to worry too much. I mean, especially if you're still connected to PG&E, but you don't have to worry much about that rainy day or that overcast day because the system is doing its thing, still generating some.
Well, and when you figure the size of the system and stuff on a regular grid tied, inside of your formula, you have that calculation that, because we know the average sunshine days, and we know how much rainy is, so the formula is put together in such a way that it'll compensate for that.
I see.
You see what I mean? You put a little bit more power over than what you would actually think if you had all sun.
Sure. Where is the industry going? Are these systems going to get much more efficient? Are the panels going to generate that much more power with the same amount of sun and the same amount of space? Or
we've pulled panels off of systems that were 150, 170 watt panels, and now we're doing installs at 300. And the one we're doing right now is 350.
Wow.
Per panel.
My gosh, so they're keep really efficient.
Yeah, well, of course, it's science.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't claim to be a scientist, but I mean, you get the different flows of electrons and your just all this kind of thing. They have figured out the paths to make that flow easier, to where you don't have as much of a restriction.
Okay.
So everything's becoming more and more and more efficient. Of course, your inverters are getting better. The sizes are going smaller. They're getting, like I said, they're more efficient.
Yeah.
The weights are less. They give up more heat.
I was going to ask about that. Are these panels, so heavy that sometimes you have to reinforce the roof, or are they light enough that they can usually sit up there on their own?
The standard size panels weigh about 40 pounds.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, they're about.
And how big is that size-wise?
It's about like 5.5 foot by 3.5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like 40 by 65, 66. And they're spread out over that kind of an area of the roof anyway.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you attach your attachments to the roof on on top of the trusses at 24 centers,
Yeah.
which you can, most normal houses are about a 6-foot spacing.
Yeah.
So you're spreading 3 panels,
Yeah.
2 to 3 panels over, 2 or 3 trusses. So it's not.
Do these, since they kind of become part of your roof, do they get damaged by stuff like, now granted, you're not going to have a pine tree right above your solar panels, but, like a pine cone hits them or, something like that, or hail.
Tough.
Or they're pretty tough.
They are pretty tough,
Okay, cool.
I mean, golf balls by the golf course,
That's going to do them, huh?
Yeah, that gets them. But usually, just rain or hail doesn't, They're kind of like the windshield on your car.
Oh, okay.
They're pretty tough, I mean, someone's got to hit them pretty hard.
Yeah, okay.
To break them.
Now, we're down to our last couple of minutes, and I just want to real quick ask, are there any disadvantages? Or do homeowners say later on, oh, I kind of wish we would have, done something different?
Well, I would say if there was a disadvantage, it would be if you were leasing instead of buying the system.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the average savings on a leased system is the customer saves about somewhere between 20 and 26% of what they're paying. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as a disadvantage to the system, any kind of system should be beneficial to the customer no matter what.
Yeah, I would think so. You're going to save that money, even though you've spent some.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. So you guys are in Angels Camp, right? Is that where your main office is? Mm-hmm. And you have built systems, you were telling me before we started here, kind of all over Northern California, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go clear up on the other side, up into El Dorado County, Calaveras, Tuolumne, and we've done stuff as far over as like Martinez, over the Bay Area.
Okay.
So, I mean, we cover a pretty good size area.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that with that service, every day you get to work and it's, we've got to go to Martinez? Is that?
Well, yeah, we try to schedule it somewhat better than that, but
definitely.
Sometimes it's exactly what it seems. Mm-hmm. We may go to Mariposa, and then we have to leave Mariposa and go to Placerville. I mean, it just happens.
When somebody needs the help, somebody needs the help.
And then, of course, your off-grid systems they don't have PG&E to call.
Yeah, that's right. So you're going to
the power goes down.
Put them to the front of the line.
Yeah, there they go.
Well, that's great. So, Larry Stroh, I want to thank you for being here. And folks, the company is in Advanced Solar Energy in Angels Camp. And, the sun is going to be here for a while, so I think it'll power us for a good time. Thanks for joining us on Mondo Calaveras. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, enjoy.